days, and I was in the back of her bus, and she's writing music, and we're singing, and she's saying, "No, sing it this way," and I'd try it that way. She said, "No, let's try it."
For years, whispers and wild rumors have haunted the legacy of country music legend Crystal Gayle. Clickbait headlines and shadowy online forums have painted a grim picture of her later years, a story of a star who simply vanished, her incredible career destroyed by heartbreak, ruin, and despair. It's a tragic tale that many have started to believe, a cautionary story about a beloved icon's sad and lonely end. But the truth is, behind the dazzling smile and the floor-length hair, a completely different story has been playing out. The reality of Crystal Gayle's life is far more complex and profoundly human than any rumor. To get to the real story, we have to peel back the layers of her incredible life, from a humble cabin in the hills of Kentucky to the heights of global fame. What we find isn't a story of a tragic downfall, but one of quiet strength, devastating loss, and a private resilience that has seen her through challenges far more real than any public scandal. The truth behind the heartbreaking rumors is not what you think. And to understand what really happened to Crystal Gayle, we have to go back to the beginning, before the trademark floor-length hair, before the platinum albums and sold-out tours. There was Brenda Gayle Webb, a little girl born into Appalachian poverty on January 9, 1951, in Paintsville, Kentucky. She was the last of 8 children, and unlike her older siblings, including a sister who would soon become the queen of country music, Brenda was the only one born in a hospital, not the family's simple cabin in Butcher Hollow. It was a small detail that hinted at a life that would be different from the legacy already taking shape in her famous family. Life in Butcher Hollow, or Butcher Holler, as it's famously known, was tough. The Webb family lived in a small wooden cabin in the heart of coal mining country. Her father, Ted Webb, was a coal miner who risked his life in the dark every day to provide for his large family. It was a world where the threat of danger and constant coal dust were just part of life. He loved his kids deeply, but the mines took a heavy toll, eventually giving him black lung disease. Clara Webb, the family matriarch, was the glue that held everything together. With 8 mouths to feed, her days were a constant cycle of cooking, cleaning, and stretching every penny. But even with so little, the Webb home was rich in music. Music was their escape and their entertainment. Clara sang old Appalachian ballads, and Ted would often join in. This was the soundtrack to young Brenda's life, a world where a good song was as vital as bread and water. She was almost 19 years younger than her famous sister, Loretta Lynn. By the time Brenda was born, Loretta was already married and starting her own life. This age gap meant Brenda grew up not alongside Loretta, but in the shadow, and later, the glow, of her sister's growing fame. When Brenda was just 4, the family left Kentucky for Wabash, Indiana, hoping for a life away from the coal mines. Just a few years later, tragedy struck when Ted Webb died from cancer linked to his years in the mines. Losing her father left a deep scar on young Brenda. In Wabash, Brenda's love for music grew. She listened to the radio for hours, singing along to Patsy Cline, pop, and rock and roll. Even as a kid, her voice was different from Loretta's. Where Loretta's was raw and powerful, Brenda's was smoother, softer, and had a crystal-clear quality. But she was shy. She later remembered her mom pushing her to sing for guests to help her break out of her shell. As a teenager, she started performing with her brother J. Lee Webb's band. But the biggest influence was still Loretta, who was now a Nashville superstar. Loretta saw her little sister's potential and unique voice and encouraged her to get serious about music. On one of Brenda's summer trips to Nashville, Loretta helped her get her first record deal with Decca Records, the same label that made her a star. Loretta also knew Brenda Webb wasn't a star's name. As the story goes, they were driving past a Crystal hamburger chain when Loretta got the idea. She suggested the name, Crystal, since Brenda Lee was already a big star on the label. And just like that, with a new name and a powerful sister in her corner, Brenda Gayle Webb became Crystal Gayle and stepped into the wild world of country music. signing with Decca Records in 1970 should have been a dream come true, but it quickly became a challenge. The label executives didn't just see a new artist, they saw a chance to create another Loretta Lynn. They pushed her to be a carbon copy of the sister who had already brought them so much success. Her first single in 1970 was, "I've Cried," "The Blue Right Out of My Eyes," a song written by Loretta herself. It was traditional country, right in her sister's style. It did okay on the charts, but it locked in the idea that she was just Loretta's little sister. For the next few years, Decca kept her in that box, giving her songs and a sound that felt like she was wearing someone else's clothes. Crystal felt trapped. She loved and admired her sister, but as an artist, she was suffocating. Her musical tastes were broader, leaning into pop, folk, and even jazz. The smooth quality of her voice was being forced into a style that didn't fit. She was being asked to be an echo when all she wanted was to be her own voice. The pressure was intense, and the comparisons never stopped. Rumors of a sibling rivalry started to spread, a narrative of jealousy the industry loved to push. But both sisters have always denied this. They fought like any sisters do, but they insist it was never about their careers. In fact, the most important advice Crystal ever got came straight from Loretta. Sensing her sister's frustration, Loretta sat her down and told her to stop singing her songs and find her own path. "Don't be a copy," Loretta told her. "You have your own style. Go find what works for you." It was a huge moment of sisterly support. Loretta wasn't holding her back, she was pushing her to fly. Taking that advice to heart, Crystal made a bold move. In 1974, she left Decca and signed with United Artists. There, she teamed up with producer Alan Reynolds, who didn't try to make her sound like Loretta. He heard the crossover potential in her voice and helped her build a sound that was all her own. The change was instant. Her first album for the new label included the song "Wrong Road Again." It was a sophisticated, country pop ballad, and the public loved it. It became her first major hit, climbing into the top 10. She was no longer just Loretta Lynn's little sister, she was Crystal Gayle, an artist with her own sound. During this time, she also found personal stability. In 1971, she married her high school sweetheart, Bill Gatzimos. While she built her music career, he went to law school and then became her manager. Their partnership has been a rock of stability for over 5 decades. With a new label, a hit song, and a strong personal life, the stage was set. The shadow of her superstar sister was finally receding because Crystal, with Loretta's blessing, had found her own spark. The success of "Wrong Road Again" was just the start. The mid-1970s kicked off Crystal Gayle's golden age, where she became one of the most successful voices of the decade. With producer Alan Reynolds, she perfected a sophisticated, elegant sound that bridged country and pop. In 1976, she landed her first #1 hit with "I'll Get Over You," but it was 1977 that launched her into the stratosphere. Alan Reynolds brought her a new song by songwriter Richard Lee, a jazzy, melancholic ballad. That song was "Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue." From the moment session legend Hargus "Pig" Robbins played the iconic piano intro, everyone in the studio knew it was special. Gayle's vocal was a masterpiece of subtle heartache, and they kept the very first take for the record. The song was a phenomenon. It hit #1 on the country chart and then crossed over to the pop charts, reaching #2 on the Billboard Hot 100. It became a massive international smash. The album it was on, "We Must Believe in Magic," made history as the first album by a female country artist to go platinum. The song earned her a Grammy, and Crystal Gayle became a global superstar. Her image was just as unforgettable as her sound. Her floor-length brown hair, which she'd been growing since she was a teen, became her trademark. It was a stunning and instantly recognizable look that set her apart. She explained it started out of convenience. She couldn't afford a hairdresser on the road, so she would just wash and air-dry it. This accidental branding made her a fixture on television and in magazines. She starred in her own primetime specials, hosted an HBO concert, and appeared on countless talk shows. She had a quiet glamour that was different from the rhinestones and big hair common in country music at the time. The hits kept coming through the late 70s and 80s, like Talking in Your Sleep and the huge duet with Eddie Rabbitt, You and I. She even took an artistic risk, recording the soundtrack for Francis Ford Coppola's film One from the Heart with the gravelly-voiced Tom Waits, a collaboration that baffled some but earned critical praise. Through all this success, she stayed grounded. She and her husband Bill had 2 children, Catherine and Christos, and made family their priority. She built a life in Nashville, away from the Hollywood spotlight. By the end of the 80s, she had achieved it all. She had broken barriers and opened the door for future crossover artists like Shania Twain and Carrie Underwood. But as the music industry changed, a new set of challenges emerged, ones that were far more personal than any record chart. As the 80s turned into the 90s, country music changed. A wave of neo-traditionalist artists like Garth Brooks and Alan Jackson brought a more rock-influenced sound to the radio. The polished country pop that Crystal Gayle had perfected started to fall out of fashion. Her chart-topping days were behind her. This is where the rumors often start for celebrities. As Gayle's public profile grew quieter, whispers began to fill the silence. Tabloid articles and viral posts spun a tale of a tragic downfall, hinting at financial ruin and a lonely life of regret. This became the foundation for the sad ending of Crystal Gayle myth, but the tragedy being sold to the public was a lie. The real heartbreak Crystal was facing was happening far from the cameras, and it was much more devastating than a dip in record sales. The true, sad ending wasn't a career decline, but the painful, universal experience of loss. The most profound blow came on October 4, 2022, when her beloved sister, Loretta Lynn, passed away at the age of 90. For Crystal, this wasn't just losing another celebrity, it was losing the sister who gave her a name, a start in the business, and the advice to be herself. Loretta was there in 2017 to personally induct Crystal into the Grand Ole Opry, a deeply emotional, full-circle moment for them both. Only a few years earlier, just months after having a stroke, Loretta had insisted on coming to the studio to sing backup on a song for Crystal's 2019 album, You Don't Know Me. After Loretta's death, Crystal released a simple, powerful statement: "The world lost a legend. We lost a sister. Love you, Loretta." This was a grief that ran deeper than any career disappointment ever could. The world mourned a country icon, she mourned a part of herself. This is the real story that gets lost in the fake narratives. The clickbait headlines about a faded career are a hollow distraction from the authentic sadness Crystal was actually navigating. While internet gossip focused on invented professional failures, she was dealing with the very real, human pain of grieving her sister. The whispers were loud, but the reality of her pain was silent, and far more poignant. The narrative of a tragic downfall completely misunderstands Crystal Gayle. Her story isn't about a sad ending, it's about quiet dignity and a deep commitment to what truly matters. The disturbing truth isn't some hidden scandal, it's that the fabricated story of her demise is pure fiction. The real story is one of strength. Far from being a lonely, forgotten figure, Crystal has been surrounded by stability her entire life. Her marriage to Bill Gatsimo's, which started back in 1971, is one of the longest and most solid in country music. They raised 2 children, Catherine and Christos, and are now doting grandparents. This isn't a picture of decline, it's a portrait of a family matriarch, grounded in love. Her lifestyle reflects this. She's known for being remarkably down-to-earth, finding joy in simple things like cooking, gardening, and being present for her family. While she once toured the world, her later years have been a conscious choice to prioritize a private, fulfilling life over a constant chase for the spotlight. That doesn't mean she's retired. She continues to tour, with concert dates scheduled well into 2025, playing for devoted fans across the country. In 2019, she released a critically acclaimed album, You Don't Know Me, Classic Country, which was co-produced by her son, Christos. More recently, in July 2024, it was reported she was in the studio collaborating with country legend Bill Anderson, a sign of her continued activity and respect within the Nashville community. Her legacy is secure and celebrated. She received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2009, a Pioneer Award from the Academy of Country Music in 2016, and in that unforgettable moment in 2017, her sister Loretta inducted her into the Grand Ole Opry. These aren't old relics, they are ongoing acknowledgments of her impact. The real story of Crystal Gayle is a powerful rejection of the celebrity tragedy trope. She has faced huge challenges, the shifting tides of the music industry and the profound grief of losing her sister. But instead of a public downfall, she has met these hardships with grace. Her ending isn't sad, it's a masterclass in living. It's about finding happiness in a marriage of over 50 years, in the joy of grandchildren, and in the music that has guided her entire life. The most disturbing truth is not about her, but about a culture so eager to invent a tragedy where one doesn't exist. Crystal Gayle's true legacy isn't sorrow, but serene and powerful endurance. The story of Crystal Gayle, as told in the dark corners of the internet, is a dramatic tale of a star whose light faded into a sad, lonely ending. But it's a work of fiction. The truth is far more inspiring. Crystal Gayle didn't have a tragic downfall. She lived a life, full, complex, and deeply human, marked by incredible success and profound, personal loss. She faced the pressure of growing up in a legend's shadow and, with her sister's blessing, carved out her own iconic identity. She reached the top of the world, breaking barriers while never losing her quiet sense of self. And when faced with a changing industry and the crushing grief of losing her sister Loretta, she didn't crumble. She endured. She found strength in her family, her half-century marriage, and the simple joys of a life lived authentically. The truly disturbing part of this story isn't her ending, because it's been anything but sad. It's the eagerness with which a false narrative of tragedy was created and consumed. Her journey is a reminder that a life isn't defined by chart positions or headlines, but by resilience, love, and the quiet dignity with which we face our triumphs and our heartbreaks. Crystal Gayle's legacy is not a sad ending, it's a life beautifully and gracefully lived. What are your favorite Crystal Gayle songs or memories? Do you think the media is too quick to create tragic narratives for celebrities? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look at the real story behind the rumors, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of your favorite icons. Thanks for watching.